everyone, Abadesi from Hustle Crew here, and this week we are learning some new habits to challenge bias in our everyday lives. And specifically, we are focusing on the SPACE framework. So, as we all know, we all have bias. Our brain has been programmed to make shortcuts when we are making decisions. We have millions of decisions to make every day, and the reality is it's only a tiny percentage with which we actually put mindful thought into them and don't resort into shortcuts or relying on stereotypes or other types of heuristics to help us jump to a conclusion. So a really helpful framework that we can use when we want to challenge bias in our lives and make sure that we're not leaning into our implicit biases is the SPACE model. Before I jump into what the acronym stands for, it's important to remember that a lot of those shortcuts our brain makes when we are making decisions are driven not just by stereotypes in the media, things that we've observed, also by our cultural norms. As we grow up, in our lived experience, we learn which behaviors are ideal behaviors and which behaviors are not ideal behaviors to be ashamed of or frown upon. And our brain also uses these moral guidelines and moral frameworks as a way to make snap judgments too. Now, the challenge with that is that if someone comes from a different culture with a different set of morals and a different set of cultural norms, it can be very easy for us to quickly interpret their actions or statements or judgments as negative. But of course, the world and our life is more nuanced than that. So instead of jumping to conclusions, especially if we're working in international teams or really just living in any modern city, which is full of different cultures and different identities, it's important for us to take a step back before we judge someone and consider how their identity traits, and not just the country they were born in or the religion they follow, really anything, their sexual orientation, whether or not they have pets, all of those things can have an impact on the way they behave and the way they see the world. So the SPACE model acronym is a helpful way for us to be better ambassadors of inclusion and challenge our bias. The S stands for slowing down. Take time to process and reflect on others' responses. The P stands for perspective taking. So show empathy towards someone by taking perspective. Where are they from? What's their experience of life? Why do they think like that? The A stands for asking yourself. So challenge your own assumptions. Hey, but is that a fair way to respond? Like, gosh, are you just projecting your own values onto them? The C stands for cultural intelligence. The more we know about other people's cultures, the easier it is to be aware of those cultural behaviors and how it could be driving people's words and actions. The E stands for exemplars. A lot of the time in the media, they love to use negative stereotypes for underrepresented groups like people from the queer community, Muslim people, mothers, people who aren't rich, people who are poor. Instead of jumping to those negative stereotypes, look for exemplars. Look for the best example of that person you can think of. And the final E in the SPACE model stands for expand. So surround yourself with other cultures. Now, I'm not saying you should be like Pokemon Go around collecting folks. You can expand through the content that you consume, podcasts, videos, books, anything. So that is the SPACE model. Head to members.hustlecrew.co to read more about it. See you at the next workshop where you can discuss with the rest of the community. Bye.